Well, I'm going to say good afternoon because we tried like a son of a gun this morning to get this thing recorded, didn't we?
We tried hard, and it didn't work.
Did not work. Yeah, so it came up with challenges. So to begin this podcast, real quickly, just we'll begin with that word challenge. We're going to get into some nutrition and the challenges that we all face with, you know, fueling our body to do what we were going to ask it to do. So we had a challenge this morning getting this internet figured out. We couldn't figure it out. We were freezing up speaking. It'd be a good bloopers. We could do a good blooper with that. But
I
I
think
already
there were
blew.
some words on there that probably wouldn't be appropriate.
Well, I
Okay.
would yeah, well, I would just have to click that button, when I upload it. Is there any explicit language? I would say, "Well, yeah, this episode, yes." But the challenge, right? So, how's your challenge going? Are you gonna kick my ass? I mean, are you gonna really just, like, embarrass me in front of, all of our clients? That you won and I gotta spend $200 on your fancy shoes?
Well, I hope so. It's going well. I've had today has not been good because I went to the pool right after we
Good.
tried to do our podcast, and I got there, got changed, and then realized I'd had no towels, had no towel. And so I had to come right to the gym. So I needed to shower. And so I asked them if they had towels, and they said no. And so I didn't swim either. So I guess I'm going to just work out here. So that threw a wrench in my plan for
Swimming.
kicking
Yeah.
your ass. But no, nutrition is going well. I've been buckled down. I mean, I've always been, you know,
You
aware, but it's just like I've logged everything I've put in my mouth. I have like been very diligent about what I'm eating, how much I'm eating, just cutting things out that maybe I would have normally. A beer here or
Right.
there that hasn't been as regular. But yeah, I feel good with it. Lost a few pounds, got a few more to go to beat you, but I feel good.
Yeah, I've lost a few. I've been kind of put on the bench, so to say, for the last month because of my eyes. But yes, so yeah, on Saturday I was able to run for the first time, and I biked Saturday or Sunday, and then I worked out yesterday. So it's crazy when you don't do anything, you feel like crap. When you take your body through something that challenges it and stresses it out, you feel good. It's like it's really amazing. So that was, our challenge. And I'm not giving up yet. I'm not giving up. I'm not throwing in the towel just so you have something to, dry off with at the gym. I'm not going to throw in the towel. So I've got 8 pounds to go. I've got 8. So we'll see what happens on the 31st. But there are some challenges when it comes to how we fuel our body. And I don't want to make this so simple in the very beginning because there are some challenges we want to be able to discuss. We want to talk a little bit about burnout, eating the same food all of the time, family preferences. Sometimes at the dinner table, kids won't eat food, kids need more food, we need less food. How do we design that dinner for that night, making it taste good? I mean, sometimes when we get on these protein-rich diets, it doesn't have the taste that we might want. How do we overcome that? And then food fatigue. How do we get around that? Those are the types of things we're hearing our clients talk about in the gym. So you thought it'd be a good idea to bring this up, but in its simplest form, I mean, all there's a lot of things that contribute to our overall fitness, our sleep, our stress levels, our movement outside the gym. But getting into the gym is a big driver of our health, but also how we fuel our body. Tell me just in a real quickly, just to set the stage, why is nutrition so important to our overall fitness?
Why is it important? Well, it fuels you, and it usually so how your workouts feel, obviously that has a lot to do with what you're putting in your body. I think it is the hardest thing when it comes to progress because it's something that you do all the time to whereas like the gym, maybe people just go 3 days a week, so it's like 3 hours, but you have to eat all day, every day, and so, I think there's a lot of mental strain that goes into it. But I think nutrition is the factor that plays the biggest role in seeing progress.
Yeah, I agree. And so as you look at that, right? We're not going to get into tracking today, but knowing what you're putting into your body and how much of that nutrient that you're putting into your body is important. We're not going to focus on tracking today, but oftentimes when we find something that works while we're tracking, it seems to be the same thing, the easiest thing, same thing for breakfast, same thing for lunch. All right. And if we want to, we're going to go, oh gosh, I got to eat the same thing for dinner too. Now, you've got some hacks and some ideas I'd like you to share with the audience. You do tend to eat the same thing for breakfast and lunch, right?
Yes, and I get made fun of quite a bit for that. But yeah, I feel like when we talk to clients, one of the biggest things they say is they are tired of eating the same foods over and over again. And so, or they, are burnout on the same foods.
Right.
And so what I always say, there are two parts to this that I usually would bring to clients is one, some of that isn't going to go away. So some of that eating the same stuff, you just kind of get used to it and it just becomes part of your day. You actually enjoy it because it takes a lot of mental strain off of you. So if you just eat the same thing for breakfast or lunch or dinner, whichever one, it works. It just takes a lot of thought out of it. It takes a lot of prep out of it. It's just like, what's your go-to? And it's easy. So you actually like that. For me, I crave the same breakfast because I don't have to think about it. It's like I know exactly what to make. I know how many calories are in it. I know how many grams of protein. I know how it makes me feel. I don't have to worry about my stomach getting upset and on and on and on. It's easy. And so that's what I always tell people to try to look at it from a sense of where do you feel the most burnout? Is it that you're eating the same foods for dinner, or are you eating the same things for breakfast and that doesn't you can't stomach that anymore? Wherever it is, there's usually like one point. My point is dinner. I cannot stand not having something new or exciting or making fresh food for dinner. So that's where my variety comes in and like my satisfaction around food comes in for my dinner time meals. And everything else is kind of pretty similar because it's easy and I just stick with it.
Yeah, I think that's smart. We want to make again, I think the basis of our meals, we want to have the right macronutrients and we do prioritize protein. So where we get those nutrients is important. We have guides that we share with our clients where the best sources of protein and carbs and fats and where we recommend they go. So would it be good if somebody kind of maybe took a look at that and just said, here's the types of foods that I really enjoy eating. There's different ways I can prepare these foods. I think you've talked about that. I've heard you talk about that with clients. Talk to me a little bit about, they've identified the foods they like, but and they can create some variety even in those. It could be chicken one week, it could be, beef the next week, fish another week. So those are ways to incorporate variety. But you've got also, additional ways to kind of even with the same foods, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that people have the, um, misinterpretation of you just have to eat chicken and broccoli in order to be healthy. It's like, well, that's not the case, at all. There's lots of foods, and once you find the foods that you like and you know the foods that are quote unquote healthy, just buy those foods every week. That takes a lot less time to if you have like a rotation of maybe 4 or 5 meats, protein sources that you have, maybe 4 or 5 different types of carb sources. Same thing with vegetables. Kind of buy those same things every week and then you just rotate them in into kind of what you're feeling for the day. And then it gets kind of fun too, where you have the same ingredients, but you're making more creative meals out of it. For me, I use myself as an example because I think we do a pretty good job of this is go our grocery bill is very similar every week because we buy pretty much the same thing. But there's not many times that I eat the same dinner
Hmm.
throughout the week or even like week to week a lot of the time. So we get the staples of chicken, either chicken breast, usually chicken breast and chicken thighs, because they taste different. Usually some type of salmon or trout, some type of ground turkey or ground beef. We don't eat a lot of red meat, not my preference,
Okay.
but you can, but we just usually do ground turkey and something fun. They have chicken sausages and turkey sausages, stuff like that. And then we kinda think about what we're craving maybe of everybody gets the craving for Mexican food or they get the craving for Chinese or some type of Asian style food. And then that's
Hmm.
just where I look at the ingredients that I have and say, "Okay, I can make a stir fry out of this. Okay, I can make a fajita salad out of this, or I can make tacos out of this." You're craving Italian, you can maybe make a healthier version of like a chicken parm or something like that. So there's
Hmm.
lots of things that you can do that are fairly simple and it more so sparks your interest based off of what you're craving and then how you can make it healthier.
Yeah, you can spice it up and, with different things. I'd love to see your spice cabinet there. I mean, when I see some of the plates that you post on social media, I'm envious. They're all decorated. They're all, perfectly placed on the plate and they look really good. But you can also, right, you can cook them differently. A grilled chicken thigh tastes different than a broiled chicken thigh that tastes different than a baked chicken thigh, as well. So a lot of
Yeah.
creativity there.
Yeah, and I think that, if you get the same general foods, but then you decide which way you're gonna cook them differently, like you said, a chicken thigh grilled versus a chicken thigh baked tastes completely different. Or if you're craving like the crispiness of a chicken wing, you throw that chicken thigh in the air fryer and it tastes completely
Mm.
different. Throw a sauce, a different sauce on it, and then you have something that resembles what chicken wings taste like. So, yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of different ways that it doesn't have to be boring, but it's still not complicated either.
It's kinda like when we change a routine in the gym, when we change a movement in the gym, then it's doing the same thing, but it's just a little
Yeah.
different, and it creates a newness to it and not this, burnout type of environment. So we've also heard in the gym, we have families that have different makeups. We've got families with young kids. We've got families with older kids. We've got people that live alone, right? Just by themselves, or they've got a spouse or partner that maybe doesn't have the same taste. So when we sit down as a different, like a group of people in our households, you might have a picky eater as a child, and you got to adapt for that. You may have a son that's trying to play Division 1 football at 17 years old and needs to eat 5,000 calories, and you're 55 and need to lose 10 pounds and need to eat 2,000 calories. How do we manage around that?
Yeah. So I think, granted, I don't have kids, so I can't give examples around that, but I can give
But
examples in our house that
it's another
yeah,
person in the household that has a
different
different
preference.
need.
Yeah. So, thinking about what your needs and what your goals are. So, if you are in a caloric deficit, but maybe your husband or your partner is not, like you can still eat the same meal, but maybe switch some things out. So, if you're doing burgers, that's always a good example. You cook burgers on the grill. Maybe you eat it on like a low carb wrap or like lettuce, and then your partner eats a same thing with kids, like, kids will probably eat a burger on a bun, they're not gonna eat it if it's wrapped in lettuce, but you can have the same, like, feeling of eating a burger, you're just subbing out maybe 150, 200 calories versus eating the bun. Same thing with, like, your bases, so if you're doing, like, a fajita bowl, maybe your partner is a fan of rice and they're trying to, like you said, bulk up or put on weight, and they're doing, like, a whole rice base bottom. You could do maybe some lettuce or some greens on the bottom and then like a small thing of rice. And you're probably cutting 30 carbs out of that meal, but you're essentially having the same meal. Or add-ons, if you're doing a meal like in our house, I don't like sour cream, so that's not anything I will put in my body. But something like that, like when Lauren and I make a meal, she's a very saucy person. I don't like things saucy. So, she'll put her Thai hot Thai sauce on something where there are some extra calories in there, but I have bigger portions. So she puts the sauce on. I'd rather have an extra 2 or 3 ounces of meat, or I'd rather have an extra 2 ounces of rice versus spending my calories on the sauces. So we can have the same meal, maybe even the same caloric meal, but hers has less food, more sauces.
Yeah, I think sometimes, and this is where I've gotten caught up in it, and I've overcomplicated. And I think what you're talking about is really just simplify this thing. I mean, our first thing is I can't eat the same thing that my son's eating right now, who's trying to gain weight. I'm trying to lose weight. I can't eat the same thing, so I've got to cook his meal over here, and I'm going to make something completely different for me over here, and that just seems just completely just too much, too complicated, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing too is when we hear people, maybe they say, so and so, my partner needs so much to eat. And I can't, it's like, well, you don't have to eat as much as your partner either. If you cook a
Mm.
meal, I know in our house, I eat twice as much as Lauren. It makes sense. I weigh 170 pounds. She weighs 125 pounds. We shouldn't be. I do a lot of fitness. She does fitness, but maybe not as much. And so we shouldn't be eating the same amount of food, but it's okay. We don't have to eat different meals. I just usually get 2 servings of food to her 1 serving of food, but it's generally the same thing. Or there's some things that I don't like and potentially she does. Like, it's not a brand new meal, it's just maybe subs in and out of little things, maybe a type of vegetable. Last night she had beets. I don't love beets, they're okay. I had Brussels sprouts, but we still had, like, the same what do we have? Chicken
You don't
veg.
like beets, but you like Brussels sprouts?
I like pickled beets. I don't love just
Okay.
roasted
I
beets.
love beets and I love Brussels sprouts. I mean, those are 2 of my go-to favorites. I mean, that's crazy. Pickled beets.
I like pickled, and I had tastes of the roasted beets, but just they kind of taste like dirt to me.
What if you mix them in though? You know, you mix them
I had a
into
few.
something.
Well,
Okay.
I had a few in my Brussels sprouts. So she had a few Brussels sprouts in her beets. I had a few beets in my Brussels sprouts.
You know sour cream in a sauce or something like that, right? I mean, is that just for will you like are you the type of eater that kinda where, I know what Cynthia does sometimes is she'll if she knew our kids didn't like a certain thing, like a spaghetti sauce, she will put a lot of greens in there, make it part of the sauce and everything, and one of our kids could just pick it out. "You put this in. I know you did. You put this in." And now the sauce is, like, foreign, right? Are you the type of eater that can pick out something that someone tried to hide on you?
I could probably do that. It's funny because speaking of, like, the way we do meals in our house, I'm a separate eater. Like, I like vegetables separate from the meat, from the starch, whereas Lauren likes, like, combination. So that's a way that we do it sometimes is, like, I eat mine separately. So say I have chicken, I have, green beans, and I have potatoes. I eat them separately. She puts it all into a bowl, mixes it together, puts a sauce on top, but essentially it's the same meal. It just the way we prefer it is a little bit different.
Yeah. It's interesting. Well, I've seen your plates and they are. I mean, it's like you don't have like partitions on your plate, but you might as well because all your food is arranged properly and they don't touch each other. And um, are you okay? This has nothing to do with this, but I'm just curious. Do you eat certain things first?
Yes, I always start with the vegetable and then I go to the protein. I always save the carb for last. Sometimes I'll eat in a circle. I'll eat a little bit of all, but the carb is always the last thing that goes in.
Interesting. Interesting. Learn something every day. Every day. Now we may have touched on it a little bit when we were talking about food burnout, but there is this, I like to eat. And my wife, she's really good. Cynthia is a really good cook. And we don't eat a lot of like rich foods like that really, kind of create that really like massive taste. I don't know how else to describe it. But she's really good. And so the taste of food matters and sometimes when we get these, say, higher protein dense meals, sometimes the enjoyment of eating can kind of disappear. How do you spice up? We'll go back to your spice rack in your house. How do you spice up your meals to make them satisfying?
Yeah. Um, well, we use a lot of sauces. If you would look in our fridge, there's the entire door is full of different sauces. And you have to be careful with sauces because sauces can be very calorically dense. But there are a lot of sauces out there if you check the nutrition labels, like the Hughes, I forget, like G Hughes, like sugar-free barbecue sauce. We have like a ton of those. Walden Farm sauces, we have a ton of those. We make a lot of our like honey mustards and stuff like that, we'll make it ourselves. But yeah, sauces are my big go-to on how to spice things up. I would also say so if you feel like, um things aren't as satisfying. Usually that means there's a craving. So this is like reverse engineering it. If you are like, man, I just like am craving something, like you said, rich and dense and really tasty, I would kind of back it up a little bit and see if potentially you weren't getting adequate nutrients and especially protein previously in your meals because a lot of those cravings come from inadequate protein consumption. And so you can usually combat that if you just eat more protein at earlier meals or the day before, those cravings usually subside.
Are there common mistakes you think that people make, trying to either they avoid healthy fats, which would contribute to a like a flavorful meal. Maybe they try to keep the caloric content, down. And, so there's some things as we try to make our foods to meet our caloric intake. Are there common mistakes that we sometimes make in doing that?
Yeah, I think people become potentially too restrictive. That's
Mm,
like, if you're the type of person that you are 100% on all week and you're restricting, you're not having anything, you're white knuckling it basically all week. Usually those people, they get to the weekend and they just like go ham and they eat whatever they want. And that's where I say, like, plan for things that you enjoy. So maybe pick one meal out of the week that you potentially don't track, it's just out of enjoyment, so then that can usually offset that extreme craving,
gotcha.
or plan for little treats here or there, like, I usually get a scone every Wednesday. That's like because I know by, like, Wednesday, Thursday evening, with all of my workouts and, like, eating pretty clean up to that point, I'm craving something sweet, so I just, like, build it into my day. And that's something that I think would help if people just plan a little bit better for those like off foods, won't lead to as many cravings. So if you find yourself being overly restrictive, like either cutting out all carbs or cutting out all fats or cutting out a whole meal group itself, like that's probably what's causing your cravings. And I would
Mm.
say not to do that.
I like what you said. I really do. You plan. It's okay. It's okay to have that sweet. It's okay to have that one, that item that you may be craving, but you don't let your hunger or appetite, and that'd be something else I want to ask you if there's a difference between hunger and appetite, but it's just that if you crave it and you don't plan it, then there's no control over it. And I know for me, when I'm craving something that I've restricted, and once I grab it, I don't just nibble. I really enjoy and probably consume way too much of that craving. Let me ask you: is there a difference between appetite and hunger in your mind?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Uh,
because if you're hungry, you will eat anything. It doesn't matter what it tastes like.
right.
Uh, and then there's appetite is more like the feeling of wanting to be satisfied in your mouth.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I know. I do.
I
Oh,
don't think that's the scientific definition, but that's what my brain said.
like that. I like the way you describe that because it's common sense. It's human. It's not scientific. It's what we feel. Oftentimes we respond to how we feel. So lastly, thing I want to talk about is we can kind of sense something, or we can. I guess here's what I'd like to ask. We've talked about burnout and how to avoid it. Right. We've talked about satisfaction, but here's the thing: food fatigue. I think it's different than burnout, and there are maybe some indicators, or there's some things that you might be feeling or sensing ahead of time, knowing, hey, you know what, you get a little tired of this food or this. How would you help someone maybe identify maybe some signals of their body, their brain, what their response to their diet, their current diet and nutritional plan? Are there safeguards to help people through that, maybe to move off of food or off a cycle of what they choose?
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel like the first step would be the awareness piece of figuring it out before you get there. So if you notice yourself, you're just like mindlessly snacking
Mm.
throughout the day, you're just grabbing stuff to grab it, and you're just like searching for that feeling of pleasure through food, like that's usually a good sign.
DoorDash is like my top app in my top left corner, right? Easy to hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like scrolling what is on there, or even just like f I don't wanna call it, I could say it, I don't care. Like food porn, right? Is like you're just like looking at food sites. I do that sometimes, is I'm like just like looking and like my sourdough recipe sites, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so good." It's like, okay, well, if you don't normally do that, then something's probably up. You're like still searching for that feeling somewhere, and or crave if you're not a person that goes out to eat much, or you don't order takeout, but you notice yourself, I just really want McDonald's, I just really want something quick and easy and usually really high in calories, then that's a sign. And so I think then once you notice that, like stopping, being like, okay, something needs to change before I just completely go off the deep end with this. And then you can do like little things, like just say you're going to change one. So if you're used to eating like the same thing, take one of those meals and then make it fun. Maybe it's a meal that you get a new recipe for you cook it as a family, you let your kids join in, kinda let yourself indulge a little bit, but it could still be, healthy. That's like, I don't know, that's an example. Or you could if you a lot of people meal prep, that's another thing is, if you're like, "Man, I got on this with my rotisserie chicken for a while." It was like, I just ate rotisserie chicken all the time, and then I got tired of rotisserie chicken, and I think there were a few days where I was like, "I'm not eating this." I just went to Chipotle, and it's like, well, that's the sign, like, okay, I don't usually get Chipotle, so that's my and then it's like, "Well, what is it?" It's like, "I don't wanna eat this freaking rotisserie chicken for one more day." It's like, "Okay." So then on Sundays, then I started making different meals, not trying to force myself to eat that, you know? So that would I think that was, like, around summertime. I would go out to the grill, and I'd grill, like, a whole bunch of different types of chicken and sauces and stuff, and then that something as simple as that took me out of that mindset, and then the Chipotle stopped.
Yeah. I think, when I listen to, our clients, I listen at least my clients, sometimes when they start talking about the nutrition, they don't come out and say it, but you can sense there's like almost a shame that they weren't perfect in this aspect of the changes that they're trying to make for themselves. A lot of them have goals that are set on body composition or weight loss and those types of things. And they see nutrition as something they really, really have to change. And so they try to go from 0 to 60, right? Or they go from not perfect to perfect. And then they end up in the middle, and because they end up in the middle, they feel like they missed it. They didn't succeed. I was talking with one girl the other day, whereas she's just saying my schedule is such that there's days that I can nail it, and there's days that I can't. And it's just like I find this when I work with people, they could do 10 things right in a day and they could do one thing wrong. And when they set their head on the pillow, what they're thinking about is not the 10 things that they did right, it's the one thing they did wrong. And so, do you see, maybe something that could help an individual just accept? I don't know if accept is the right word, but just be satisfied with the changes they've made until they can maybe get better at it. But man, sometimes our schedules don't allow us to have every day be perfect.
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, I've never seen anyone succeed that was perfect. The
Mm,
most success comes from the people who really hone in where they can, but then they kinda create boundaries. I This was in a consult I had yesterday, was like, and she's pretty good with her food, it's pretty dialed in, but there are social outings are really important to her, and
mhm,
it's like, okay, like, no big deal. I always notice if you plan for those, if you tell yourself in your mind, like, "Okay, I know on Thursday night I'm going to go out and that's taco night with my friends," or Tuesday night, guess Tuesdays is taco night, but anyways, those are the days I'm going to go out with my friends, I'm gonna have a beer and I'm gonna have tacos. You don't feel bad about doing it because you already told yourself you're gonna do it. So, it's like putting boundaries on it. It's like, yeah, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, I don't, like, go out to eat. I eat at home, I cook my meals, I'm not really snacking, so then that leaves room for that Tuesday night. To whereas if you don't make any you say, "I'm gonna be 100% on all the time," there's not a chance in hell you're going to be 100% on, and then instead of having 1 day, you usually have 2, 3, 4 days a month long of going off because you're beating yourself up and you're like, "Well, I already did it once, so I'm gonna do it again," and then I'm just, "Well, I already screwed it up the rest of the week, I'll just let it go." It's like, "No, I planned on Tuesday, I had my tacos, I had my beer, and now we're right back on schedule."
I love that. I love that. We also we've talked about this in the exercise realm and these influencers that are out there that have got all these wacky types of movements that's going to make you stronger and more mobile and everything. And but you also see that kind of on the food side too. There's a lot of people, on the social media sites that'll tell you, well, this food will work. Line up these 8 containers on Sunday night and fill them with these foods, and this is how I lost 10 pounds or I lost 30 pounds. Talk about the importance and maybe your philosophy too, as a coach, the importance of the individual discipline, the individual priority, and coming across it because what works for me might not work for one of my clients, right? What's the
Yeah.
talking about the importance of just people understanding their metabolism, their schedule, all of those things.
Yeah. Well, back to and I know I've talked about this before, but back to the people that we see on social media. If you're seeing a person doing all of this on social media, they are not the same as you because they have the 2 hours to make this video, edit this video, prep the food, pack the food, put it on social media, check their insights on how many likes and whatever. They're not you because nobody has the time to do that. If you are a normal working professional and not a fitness influencer that's probably getting paid by one of those nutrition companies to make the video. So that's
Mm,
step number 1. If you
okay.
find yourself going down the rabbit hole on social media, just think about, like, "I'm probably different than this person."
Yeah, if I eat this, they did it. If I eat this exact recipe, I'm gonna screenshot this recipe and I'm gonna make it all this weekend. And here
Yeah.
I'm not getting the same response.
Yeah, well, I always say that's where it comes down to any diet works, right? Is like any if you wanna do low carb, you'll probably see results. You wanna do low fat, you'll see results. You wanna do keto, you see results. Paleo, we've talked about all of them. All of them work. The problem is they usually what doesn't work isn't sustainable for your lifestyle. So whatever you're doing in your life, whether it's work, whether it's kids, whether it's travel, whether it's your fitness, if it doesn't match up with your lifestyle, then it's not right for you, whereas it could be right for someone else. So that same person that you're looking at, you don't know what they're doing outside of the gym, right? Like I can't tell one of my clients to eat my macronutrients when I'm training for a triathlon. I need a lot more calories than someone who's not training for a triathlon. I can't tell someone exactly what meals to eat, what time to eat, what because my schedule is a lot different than someone's schedule who's in an operating room all day. So I think that that's why you get a coach is because usually they can help navigate you through those and say, "Okay, well, let's look at your day, not the person on Instagram's, not my day. Let's look at your day and let's see where we can fit food in there, what kinds of food we can fit in there." And then those we try to play around with your schedule and puzzle piece it together to see what works because it also comes down to food preference, right?
Mm,
Um some people don't handle foods very well. Well, if you are in an operating room all day and you don't handle certain types of foods, then you probably don't want to be eating them right before. It's like all these
yep,
influencers, high fiber, you need this much fiber in this meal, this much fiber in this meal. And it's like, well, sometimes you might not want that much fiber right before you go and operate on someone. Just an
absolutely.
example. But yeah, I feel like you just have to figure out where your sticking points are and then try to find something that would work for you and your sticking points, not someone else's sticking points.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's wrap up. Takeaways,
Okay.
couple takeaways. Just a couple quick takeaways to help our audience, maybe 2 or 3 tips.
Well, I think it start first tip would be to open your mind up a little bit and not be so like focused on what's quote unquote healthy
Mhm.
and like broaden your horizons of food because there's lots of healthy foods. You don't have to believe in the old myths of chicken and broccoli and rice, chicken, broccoli, and rice. Like we can expand our views on that. I think that's step one. So maybe make a list of foods that you do like and buy those at the grocery store.
Mhm.
Thing 2 would be to take those foods that you like and maybe put them in some type of inspiration or theme layout for your meals so you can have some variety, you can have some satisfaction, you can have some fun with it so it's not so boring.
You shared this little and I so embarrassed even to say this, but, you said, "Well, just make smaller plates." So adjust portions. Don't adjust the meal, just portions. That'd be a good thing to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and if there's a meal that you really, really like, still have that meal, maybe just have less of it. Is like I've always said this is I eat chicken wings probably once a week or once every 2 weeks, but I'm not eating 12 chicken wings. I'm eating like 4 chicken wings because it gives me the same idea of like, wow, this is good. I'm out at a restaurant, where the problem with people is like, I'm getting chicken wings. I'm eating 12. I'm eating 18 wings, no vegetables, no nothing. Whereas it's like, no, you can adjust the portions of that. Same thing with pizza, is like, you can have a slice
Mm,
of pizza, no problem. Have a salad with it, have some grilled chicken with it, have your slice of pizza, and move on.
awesome. Well, hopefully, at least especially our clients that are listening to us, and everybody else who might be listening to us today, can know that, nutrition can be fun. It doesn't have to be boring. Okay. It doesn't have to be just so regimented that there's no flexibility in it for you to meet your goals for your overall health. And I thought it was a good conversation today, especially after all of the trouble it took us to get through this today.
Yeah, we did it. We made it.
We did. We did. So, hey, I'm looking forward to next week. May have a guest. You want to kind of tease that a little bit?
Might have a guest. I'm a little nervous about it because it would be a different role for me because I'm on a camera with her every week and I'm on the opposite side. So
Wasn't she an inspiration to a topic we had maybe a couple weeks ago?
yeah, she's been an inspiration to a lot of things that have been happening in my life. So it'll be good.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we can make that happen. So
Hopefully so.
tune in next week.